Today's project will require the use of your colored pencils, a regular pencil, and a piece of white paper. Hi class, it's Mrs. Latinsky. Welcome to our art lesson today. Today I'm inspired by all the flowers growing in my neighborhood. Right now we have tulips and daffodils and hyacinths, and I like to appreciate flowers by drawing them or painting them. It's one of the ways I get to understand them better. An artist who did a really great job of this was named Georgia O'Keeffe, and she's famous for her artwork involving flowers. She did over 200 paintings of flowers, and the way she did them was often an extreme close up, like so close you could see every little bit in detail of the flowers. So, we're going to learn a little bit from her technique and also study the element of art texture and the principle of design pattern. This painting by Georgia O'Keeffe is called Pink Tulip. It may not look much like a tulip to you or a tulip that you've ever seen, but keep in mind this is an extreme close-up of a tulip. You can see there's pink petals here, and these are the inner parts of the tulip. But also pay attention to the way she shows texture. You can see the rough outlines here make these parts seem like they have a bit more of a rough texture. There's pattern in here as well. Tulips, petals repeat. When I was looking at tulips closely in my backyard, I counted 6 petals. I don't know if all tulips have 6 petals, but the ones in my yard do. And you can see the repetition. There's one, and that looks like another one, and another one. And this is another one. You can see it's curved, and you can see the inside of this one. And here's another one. This is a tulip from my backyard. I thought it was interesting how it opened up so wide, but you can also see, like what O'Keeffe was showing us, when you zoom in close, the different textures. You can see the different lines and patterns that are within the petal itself. Now, here's a drawing my daughter Grace did of one of the spring flowers. This might be a tulip, I'm not entirely sure, but it's sort of a pinkish colored one, kind of like the one that Georgia O'Keeffe did. You can see how she shows a more rough and jagged texture on the leaf by doing these little crinkly lines. And she has the pattern of different petals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on there's too. And here she zooms in a bit more. My daughter Lizzie did some drawings of daffodils. And one of the neat things about daffodils is you can see this kind of jagged inner parts when you look really close. And there's even some lines. You can see that sense of texture. I'm going to put my paper in landscape orientation, and I'm going to create a line straight down the center. And then I'm going to create another line down this part. And this is going to separate my paper into 3 areas. I'm going to do 3 different studies of a daffodil. In this part, I'm going to zoom out. This is my extreme zoom out where you can see a few different daffodils. And in this one, I think I'm going to do the extreme close up. But in this one, I'll just do a different perspective and an angle on it. I'm going to draw a simple jar vase here where I do kind of an oval shape for its mouth because you're looking at it from an angle, so it wouldn't be an exact circle. And then I'll do lines down the side, and then I'm going to draw some stems. Daffodil stems aren't super thick, but you can make them go in lots of different directions if you want. The first thing I like to do is draw that center part with all that texture in it. And I usually start at the very top of it, and it's just kind of got a jaggedy kind of line. And I do sort of an oval like that. And then I go down like a cone from the sides like that. And that creates that center part of the daffodil, and see how it connects with the top of the stem. Now the petals for the daffodils are roughly, I don't know, that sort of shape. I don't know what kind of shape you want to call it. I'll call it a petal shape. And I think there's 6 of them, and they're just going to bend and go around the daffodil. There's 4, and some of them are going to be hiding behind the daffodils. You don't necessarily have to draw all of them. So daffodil number 1. Continue placing daffodils on top of all those stems, and you can have them pointing in different directions or taller or shorter. The leaves are fairly thin. Daffodil leaves are a little on the thin side. They're long and they're thin, so don't get too carried away making them thick, and they kind of go all sorts of directions. You're not going to see a lot of texture at this level because remember, we've zoomed out. We're looking at the flowers in general. We're looking at the way they are organized, and we're looking at their general shape, but we don't really get to see a lot of texture at this level. But when we go to this level, this is where the texture is really going to come in. So let's go over here and do our extreme zoom in. And I'm going to make it pretty big. That, remember earlier, it was that jagged oval. Well, right now, when you look at it from the top of a daffodil, it's actually more of a circle. All of these jagged elements, they go into the center. So from every point, draw a line into the center. This repeated pattern of texture going all the way into the center from every point that creates a sense of depth. It's that cone you're looking into. Draw your 6 petals and then make sure that you put some little indication of the texture, these rumples in the petals, the kind of places where they pop up a little bit and aren't completely flat. On this one, I want to do a side view of I want to do a side view of the flower so you can really get an idea of what that centerpiece looks like from the side and a little bit of the texture. So now once again, it's going to be more of an oval because you're looking at it from the side, just like on the jar. See, it's just the same kind of thing. This tube for the jar, it looks more like an oval when you look at the top. Well, same with the flower, but it's not a perfect oval. So it's going to be big because this is more of a zoom in again. And then it's just going to fold over a little bit and then it's going to go up. There we are. And then the cone thing, remember we did there, but we're just zooming in on it even closer. There we go. And we're not going to go all the way down because I want to play with these leaves that are kind of come up and down. Remember that texture is also going to be visible from the outside though too, but it's the same thing as you see here, but from the outside. So from each of these points, you'll draw a line down, but you also see it on the inside. So you have to remember to go on the inside, but don't go all the way down because you're only seeing it on the inside. So go in and color all those center parts of the flower with that golden yellow, the darker shaded yellow, kind of medium. But I'm gonna make some lines. I'm gonna push hard, push, push, push with that same color to make lines to give just a general impression of a texture. Now you're gonna use the light yellow for the petals. And this you're just gonna draw fairly lightly, fill in all those petals. So you can get a general impression of a little texture on the petals by pushing harder with that same lighter yellow. So just push a little harder, 2 little lines, they don't go all the way down, and that gives you a general petal kind of texture. These same kind of lines we're going to do here in more detail. I think the stems tend to be darker, so I'm going to just take the stems and go all the way down, and they tend to be a little thicker than that thin line I did. I'm just going to use the dark green for that. The leaves are a lighter color than the stem. I think it's interesting. So I'm going to take my lighter color green and color in the leaves. So for the center, I'm going to take that darker golden yellow and I'm going to color medium level, light to medium across all this center stuff. I'm going to take the same golden one and I'm going to go over those pencil lines to show that texture, that pattern of texture here, over and over and over. And so I'm going to use this darker, same yellow one that I used in the center to fill in each of these little ridges we made in this leaf. I'm gonna make them darker. Now you have your light or yellow, that's just called yellow. And then you're just going to go over the entire petal. I'm gonna use my red orange and kind of make these circles, golden yellow here, darker yellow, all throughout here. Not as much sun is getting into that center part, so I made it darker. Can you see I did that? And then this part's lighter. And then now though, we're going to push really hard on these lines to give it that texture. So we still have these lines that can be on these, they kind of curve with the way you imagine petal curves like that. And like these ones are gonna, these lines curve in that same direction. I'm gonna finally pick up my lighter yellow and just go over that whole leaf, including those spots. Let's do purple. So I'm gonna color dark around the rim of the vase. In fact, I'm going to mirror the shape of the vase to give a sense that it has form, that it is a cylinder and not flat, has dimension. Let me make it look more dimensional by giving it curved edges, the kind of lines that lead towards the center like this. And here's the finished project. Thanks for doing art with me today. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned some different perspectives on drawing flowers.